So welcome to my review of Angel Season 1. I'm really excited, also kind of nervous to kind of get into this for some weird reason. I suppose it's just because I've never really done a review for Angel before, so I don't know. Because Angel feels quite separate from Buffy and it's kind of its own thing. Do I treat it differently? Do I not? But you know, I kind of analyse things the way I analyse things no matter what. So I guess we're just going to see what happens and see how this goes. But I'm very, very excited to start this. And also, it's because with Buffy Season 1, when I reviewed that, it was, you know, I did it in like 45 minutes. It was quite short compared to my later reviews, shall we say. And obviously if I went back and did that now, I think I would do it quite differently and go a lot more in depth and stuff. But we don't have the time for that. So yeah, coming into Angel Season 1, it still feels kind of daunting to kind of kick off a series of reviews. I think it's always easier to kind of do comparisons to earlier seasons when you do reviews of the later seasons, if that makes sense. But obviously, all I can compare Angel to really is Buffy and my expectations going into it. So that did make for an interesting kind of thing, because I found it very daunting when I started with the Buffy Season 1 review, and I'm kind of in the same boat again now. I mean, I think it's going to be a bit shorter, thankfully, than my latest reviews, mainly because, you know, there's only going to be 5 sections instead of 6 like my last couple have been, because I can't really go over my predictions that I made at the end of the last season, because it wasn't the last season. So yeah, it's going to be fairly similar to how it normally is, but it's going to be general thoughts, observations and discussion. Obviously no revisiting predictions, because there aren't any predictions to revisit, so we go straight on to the character stuff. Then the themes, then your guys' favourite episodes that you voted for, then my favourite, and then my predictions for Season 2. So that's how this is going to work, and we might as well get right the hell into it with my general thoughts, observations and discussion. So yeah, I'm going to keep looking down because my notepad's right there. And I've moved away from the couch that's over there where I normally film my videos on, just because it was annoying me when I did my Buffy review that this book here kept falling over. So, a little bit of informative behind the scenes there. So there you go. I'm sure that was very interesting. But yeah, Angel Season 1. Crazy to think that we've finished with that first season already. Feels like it went so quickly, even though it was like a full 22 episodes. Like, Buffy Season 1 was only 12, so there was less to talk about anyway with that, and I think Angel does have the benefit of having 22 episodes in a season, therefore more chances to get things right. Also, I suppose, more chances to get things wrong, but you know. But it also had like 3 seasons of Buffy and the experience of that production team behind that going into this new show. So I think that's why overall Angel Season 1 fared a lot better than Buffy Season 1, and I think Angel's first season was far superior to Buffy's first season. And as an opening season of any show, I think it's very, very solid. It's, you know, a lot of first seasons of many shows I think are, you know, considered some of the weaker ones. There are a few exceptions I can think of. I think Arrow Season 1 was still one of its best seasons. Season 2 is probably my favourite though. But like, one of my absolute favourite shows is Parks and Recreation. And you know, it's kind of a common thought in, you know, the fandom of that, is that Season 1's not particularly great. And Season 2 onwards is just like the best thing ever. But I really enjoyed this first season of Angel. You know, a few hits and misses along the way, but that's to be expected of any show every season. That doesn't really make it a unique thing, but I can imagine it must have been daunting to start up this show when you already had Buffy going, and there's kind of some fans of that already expecting a lot from this show. So that was probably a very daunting thing for them to try and kind of get this right for those fans, you know. Because when you first made Buffy, they didn't know how the fans would react to it either way, so you couldn't really meet their expectations either way, because it was just they'd either like the show and carry on watching it, or they didn't. But Angel, people would, you know, be coming over to watch the show because maybe they like the characters that were going to be in it, or people who hadn't seen Buffy maybe liked David Boreanaz for some reason. I say that like there's not a reason to like David Boreanaz. The fact that he's a good actor is the reason. So yeah, I have to understand that there are some people who probably would have watched Angel season 1 having not seen Buffy, just as there are people who've seen Buffy but not watched Angel. And I think that based on season 1, they're definitely missing out if that's the case. So yeah, I think this is a really, really solid opening season for the show. I loved what they tried to do with it, and I loved that they made it its own thing, and they gave it its own kind of separate identity, its own separate story and themes. And even when it takes, like, most of its main core cast of characters are characters we met in Buffy. So even though we have those big characters from Buffy in this new show, it still feels like its own thing and has its own identity and its own kind of mission statement as well. Which I really, really love about it. I wouldn't want it to be just a carbon copy of Buffy, even though a carbon copy of Buffy would still be incredible. If you're going to do a spin-off show, you need to make it different. Otherwise, what's the point, you know? I think that's a lot of people's complaints. I think I've mentioned this before in a review or reaction somewhere, but that's a lot of people's complaints, I think, about Fear the Walking Dead. Because when that started, it was set in like the early days of the zombie apocalypse, so it was something a bit different to Walking Dead, whereas now it's kind of almost the same kind of thing. And Angel isn't really like that, which is good. It's in a different place. We have characters from Buffy, yes, but those characters aren't in Buffy anymore. So it still feels kind of new, and we're telling new stories with them. And it's not solely dependent on the crossovers with Buffy. You know, sometimes they're very minimalist, like that phone call in episode 1. And like Cordelia being on the phone to Willow at one scene. So things like that. It's not overly reliant on its like parent show. And I really like that it's found its own identity and its own voice, and it can be its own thing. It has a different feel. I mean, maybe if Angel had like started during like season 2 or 3 of Buffy, maybe it wouldn't feel quite so different to me. But I think because season 4 of Buffy was for the most part very funny and a bit more lighthearted, I think that shows a much more kind of stark contrast with Angel. So I think that also helped. That's probably a good decision on the part of like the production teams and stuff, whoever worked on both shows. I don't know exactly if like the same people worked on both shows or they had different people on different shows. I can't imagine they'd had, you know, the exact same production people on both shows, because that's just an insane amount of work. So I imagine there'd be like writers maybe spread out a bit, and different directors, different kind of production crew, stuff like that. But yeah, I still really like that Angel has its own identity and its own voice. It feels very separate, but still has those ties every now and again. But it's not like, oh, you know, we're going to have Buffy be in like 18 of the 22 episodes this season to get people to watch. You know, they don't need to do that, and I really like that. And that was one thing I think very brave of a show in its first season to do that, when it could easily, you know, try and get viewers by doing that. But it doesn't, and I really appreciate and respect that. And that being said, when we did get those Buffy crossovers, they worked really, really well. I actually think the crossovers with Buffy and Angel worked better in Angel than they did in Buffy this season. Mainly because in like Pangs in Buffy, Angel didn't have like an overall big role to play in like the plot for the most part. He was just kind of there. He didn't need to be. But then, in comparison to Pangs, you know, episode 8 of Angel, we got I Will Remember You, which is this brilliant and crazy, heartbreaking story with Buffy featuring in a major role and having interactions with like the main core cast. And then we had like Sanctuary following the first 2 part with Buffy in Angel, and Buffy came over there. Maybe not entirely in character, maybe, but that was still kind of an incredible 2-parter with Faith and everything coming back, which I'll obviously get to later on. And then in retaliation with that, in Buffy we've got the Yoko Factor, which is an okay episode by all means, but I think it was just more interesting, the crossover in Sanctuary than the Yoko Factor, that's all. But yeah, I think the crossovers worked really, really well, particularly on Angel, which is great. But it didn't need to like rely on them, which is fantastic. And shows, I think, the strength of the show. It doesn't need to do that all the time. So a few of the things I think they could have worked on maybe, it's just the fact that particularly in the first early part of the season, there were quite a few filler episodes. I know a few people don't like me calling them filler episodes, but that's just what they are to me, so I'm just going to use that. And like Monster of the Week episodes, stuff like that. So yeah, there were some interesting episodes, as I say, to not be too mean. Some interesting episodes in this first season that I won't lie and say I'm eager to watch again. I probably won't, unless I'm doing like a rewatch right from the beginning when I finished everything. And I could have done without quite a few of those, to be honest. And I would have really liked the whole Wolfram and Hart thing to have been, to kick that up a gear a lot earlier on in the season. Because it felt like it took quite a while for like the main plot of the season to really get going. The whole Wolfram and Hart business. They were in the background for quite a lot of the first half. Because they were just dealing like Monsters of the Week instead. And I kind of wish we started that whole process a bit earlier. Giving more focus to Wolfram and Hart and Lindsay, Lila Lee, all of them, I think a good way of doing that maybe would be to do maybe like a two-parter earlier on in the season. I talked about this in my Buffy Season 4 review, in the fact that while I missed the lack of like an early Season 2-parter in Season 3 of Buffy, I didn't in Season 4, because we're getting like kind of plot-heavy episodes and good character stuff, whereas I don't think we quite got that with Angel in that early kind of part of the season. So I would have loved a two-parter there. Just, it may have saved some of the stories to give them more room to breathe, instead of just being like a classic Monster of the Week. Even if they did like, I don't know, I mean, I Will Remember You is a fantastic episode, but even if they had like that being like a two-parter or something, and it ended with Angel becoming human and stuff like that, who knows? But I would have liked a kind of two-part story, I think, earlier in the season, because I think that would have really helped the pacing of it a bit. But that being said, what we did get of the Wolfram and Hart arc, I really did enjoy. I like that we had this like big law firm, like more money than sense, a lot more fucking money than fucking sense. They have more money than they know what to do with, really, it seems. They can throw it at any deal when they like. And that is against Angel Investigations, which is this new, very small, broke firm. So I quite liked that kind of dynamic. I thought that was done quite well, kind of a David and Goliath kind of situation. And it hasn't really been resolved because, Wolfram and Hart is still very much out there. So that's interesting. But I did enjoy that aspect of that whole story arc as well. I just wish we kind of got a lot more of that earlier. Because they did kind of hint that there was going to be more to those people in the pilot episode in City of, but then they never went back to it for quite a while, I feel. So yeah, I think maybe a two-part or something could have improved the pacing just a little bit and removed at least one of those more Monster of the Week kind of filler episodes. But going back to positive stuff, the cast were superb this season, consistently really, really good. And I think having Angel get his own show, and allowing some characters to move over from Buffy to Angel, giving them a lot more screen time and focus, has done absolute wonders, in my eyes anyway, for Angel as a character, and Cordelia as a character, and Wesley as a character. I mean, I didn't really know we were going to see Wesley again, at least not on Angel. I didn't think he was going to show up here, and it was even more of a surprise really when Cordelia ended up being a main cast, because I did get spoiled that she was going to turn up in Angel, but I didn't realise she was a main cast member. I mean, part of me does miss her on Buffy, but when she was on Buffy, they didn't know what to do with her really. So that's why it's an amazing thing that she's on Angel, and she gets so much more to do. And she had a really nice arc this season as well, which obviously we'll talk about later on. So yeah, season 1 did fantastic things for like the core cast members and their characters. I always liked Angel, But now I really love Angel, having watched at least just season 1 of the show. I think he's come such a long way, so I can't wait to see what they do with the remaining 4 seasons. And Buffy had already won me round on Cordelia eventually, but now she's even greater. And I always thought Wesley was quite hapless and a bit like, yeah, okay. I quite liked him, but sometimes it could get annoying on Buffy. But here, man, I love him. So, yeah, season 1 did wonders in terms of that. And, throughout the whole season, they had some very interesting story ideas thrown in there. The execution maybe not so great on some occasions. And they had some kind of interesting supporting characters and, one-off episode characters as well. But yeah, it was kind of up and down, 50-50 sometimes on whether or not I liked the way they executed certain things. Fucking Ronald. So there's that as well, kind of maybe something they could have worked on. But, when some stories and some characters are only ever going to be in like one episode, you're not really going to have loads of time to develop them properly and maybe execute them in the way you want to. And obviously there's maybe a budget thing as well. I think some ideas I read, some ideas got scrapped and stuff, so maybe that meant last minute scripts being written. So of course they're not going to have the fine tuning others may have done. So yeah, they definitely showed a lot of creativity this season in some of the ideas for the villains, and some little story moments. But I think the execution on some of them could have been done a bit better. And then the final little thing is my general thoughts. Going into Angel, I was terrified that I wasn't going to like it because I loved Buffy so much. And people enjoyed those reactions so much. I was scared that they weren't going to like my Angel reactions if I wasn't that into the show. But after I finished watching episode 1, I wasn't more worried anymore. But it did live up to and exceeded my expectations. There's been some incredible episodes this season. They really have included, I think, some of the best Buffyverse episodes ever in Angel. So, that's a big positive. And I thought maybe Angel would move to a different place, and I thought maybe it was going to be focusing on why he was brought back, and why he kind of was returned to life. And I suppose we got a bit of that, but not really much. I thought that was going to dominate what this show was going to be about. Obviously, that's not really how it is. Still haven't really gotten an answer about how Angel was returned. We have to assume it was the powers that be, or at least I assume it was, because they keep talking about his connection to the powers that be, stuff like that. I assume they brought him back for a reason. Maybe that reason is to do with the prophecy that we found out about in the last couple of episodes of the season. But yeah, those are kind of the only predictions I really had about Angel going into it, and I'm kind of glad in the directions they ended up taking with them, because my expectations were not only met but exceeded overall, and I'm so glad that I can say that, and I'm so glad that I did really, really enjoy this season. So yeah, those are kind of the initial thoughts and observations and discussion I had to say about season 1 of Angel. So now, buckle up, because this is always a section that takes 25 years. We're going to talk about characters. And as always, I start with the main cast members, and then I'll talk about some of the recurring characters or one-off characters, mainly in the order they appeared in the season. Just that I felt were worth mentioning, because obviously I'm not going to talk about absolutely everyone. We'd be here forever. So yeah, I think it makes sense talking about Angel season 1 to start with Angel. And I suppose I could talk about Liam and Angelus at the same time, because we saw brief glimpses of them this season. But man, what they've managed to achieve with Angel as a character in season 1, I think is phenomenal. I think David Boreanaz has gotten better and better and better as an actor, and I just think the kind of almost humanization we've seen of Angel briefly, and him allowing himself to open up to people and kind of form this family, which he's never really had, at least not from what we've seen. Because even when, when he was just Liam, before he was a vampire, he seemed to have quite a fractured relationship particularly with his father, and even more so fractured when he became Angelus because he murdered them all. So he definitely hasn't had a family in such a long time. So to see him go on that journey this season where he's found one was really, really satisfying as a character arc. And just knowing there's another 4 seasons of development to come, I think is fantastic. And, his kind of quest for redemption, he's kind of been going on for a very long time. It's nice to know that it's still ongoing, because obviously we have the prophecy, we know he still needs to atone for everything that he's done, and then, he'll become human. So we know he still has a long way to go yet. And I don't think I could ever get enough of this whole him seeking redemption for the things he's done. Such an interesting story. And just seeing where Angel was in the episode 1 and how he dealt with clients in the early episodes. He's not quite sure how to handle them. He kind of creeped them out at some points. When he was talking to, the woman in, I think it was episode 1, in a cafe or something, he tried to talk to her and he was really creepy and awkward and stuff like that. And seeing how far he's come since then, he's so at ease with the clients now. The fact that someone as awkward as Dang Nabbit, still feels quite comfortable in Angel's company, almost, or was willing to go around and hang out with him anyway. I think that shows how far Angel's come already. If David had met Angel at the very start of the show, I'm not sure he'd have been quite so keen to hang out with him all the time. I know David as a character was kind of keen to just find some friends and maybe stick to them. But even so, I'm not sure he'd quite have clung to Angel the way he did if he'd met him earlier on. But yeah, through Angel kind of getting closer with Cordelia and obviously Doyle and then Wesley, Kate near the start, then it all kind of got fucked up. I really like that it kind of has a lot more of a human quality to him now. And like in season 3 of Buffy, I mentioned before in that review, I think, earlier on it was like they didn't really have a place for Angel, and obviously he got his own show because of that, I guess. But then near the end of season 3, they gave Angel a lot more kind of comedic stuff to do and a lot more comedic moments, and I thought that really, really worked. And it's like they finally found something for him and a place for him in the show. And I like that they've carried that on with Angel the show, and they give him really funny moments as well. We've seen a really light-hearted side to him. He cracks jokes every now and again, probably, from spending time with Buffy when she's been on duty slaying and stuff and makes puns all the time. She probably, rubbed off on him in that sense, probably more than one sense. Oh god, I've just had an awful image there. Okay, wipe that from my brain. And like the moment in I think she's the one that starts with the party. He does the little dancing montage. That was really funny. Obviously that was just in his head and stuff, but that was really, really cool to see. Learning so much more about his past through mainly the flashbacks when he was Liam and with his father, then Darla, seeing his early days, his first kill, seeing sensitive Angel in Sense and Sensitivity. We saw another side to him then, and that was kind of comedic as well. They've really kind of peeled away loads of different layers to him, and we see that Angel's a lot more kind of complex than maybe early seasons of Buffy were led us to believe. And obviously in Eternity as well, he was Angelus again, or at least thought he was Angelus again for a bit, so we saw that side to him again. So we saw so many different layers to Angel just in this first season. So I can't wait to see where they're going to go with it now and where his character's going to go next. And I also like how they've kind of treated him as this... What's the right word? Not even a prophet or anything, something of legend, I guess, a legendary figure, almost like a good wizard or something in all the legends and the storybooks and stuff like that. With the introduction of the prophecy, Angel's kind of like that now. And I really like that kind of use of him being presented as that kind of figure. I don't know, there's something about that I find really, really cool. And I like that we started off with Angel kind of on his own, still, kind of grieving the end of his relationship with Buffy and having to leave Sunnydale, everything like that. Still wanting to atone for his sins and kind of hating himself and everything he was. Completely alone and solitary, no real purpose, as Wesley and Cordelia talked about in the finale. And then by the end of episode 22, he has a family, he has kind of a workplace. Well, he had a workplace, got blown up, but he has like a company, and he found this purpose in this prophecy and knowing what he has to do now. Just such a satisfying, mini character arc that we've gotten already for Angel. He's come so far, and yeah, David Boreanaz is just getting better and better, because he's always been fantastic as Angelus, but I also think now he's just as fantastic as Angel, mainly because I guess we spent more time with him now. He can be written better because I think the writers now know him better because they've had more time writing him. Whereas in Buffy, he was kind of reduced a lot of the time to just being the love interest. And it turns out he's a much more interesting character than that, and I'm glad that he got his own show so I could learn that. Because he's so complex now, thanks to season 1 of Angel. And yeah, how far I kind of come with him and like really love him now compared to I've always liked him, but now I like really love him. And then when you see him like in the Yoko factory, he turns up, I'm like, yes, and it's just really, really cool and exciting. And maybe I wouldn't have had that feeling if he'd been like missing for a couple of episodes in Buffy and then came back. I'd be like, oh, Angel's back, okay. But now I'm like, Angel, like big like foam hand, Angel. Oh, do they sell those like big foam hands with like the Angel Investigations logo on it? They should sell that. Call me Forbidden Planet. So yeah, seeing how far Angel's come, seeing the layers be peeled away, seeing the different complexities to him, seeing a lot more flashbacks of him, learning a bit more about his past in that sense and how that's kind of related to him, seeing his past come back to haunt him, like with Penn in Somnambulist, I don't know how to pronounce it. We've learned so much about him in just these 22 episodes, and I can't wait to see what else we're going to learn in future. I imagine we're going to learn even more about his past, given the fact that Darla's now around again. So that could be really, really cool, because like one of the defining things about Angel's past, mainly as like Angelus, it's the gypsy girl that he killed and Darla. So the fact that one of them is now around in present day with this like changed Angel. He'd already changed in season 1 of Buffy, and Darla kind of reacted to that in that sense. She's probably going to be really pissed off that he killed her. So now she'll be able to see, when she was killed in season 1 of Buffy, she kind of seen how much Angel had already changed. And we saw in the flashbacks in this season how disgusted Darla was when Angel got his soul back, and she kind of like sent him away. And now she's going to see this Angel from the end of season 1, this completely new man all over again. Probably a complete stranger to her almost. Which I think's going to be really, really interesting to see. But Angel is such a fascinating character to me now. David's fantastic. The things we've learned about him, his character arc this season, it's all been sublime, so well done. Really, really satisfying as a viewer to see that. And, to know we have another 4 seasons about to come, another like 88 episodes, is it? I think every season's still 22. So it would be like another 88 episodes still. Really, really exciting. And I can't wait to see what they're going to do with him. But yeah, Angel, I'm really glad he got his own show. Definitely earned it. And he's a fantastic, fantastic character in my eyes now, which is so cool. Yeah. They did a great job with Angel himself this season. And I think if there's one character they needed to do justice in a show called Angel, it's Angel. And they definitely did that. So Cordelia, shall we talk about next? As we know, I've always liked Cordelia. I've always said right from the beginning she has a heart of gold. That's a big fucking lie. I despised her. I wished her dead constantly during season 1. I wished her dead near the start of season 2, I think. I can't remember the exact point where I actually was like, you know what, I'm starting to like her a bit. I think it was near the kind of what's my line two-parter. Once I accepted that this is just who the character is. And I think pairing her and Xander, and that was such a sweet relationship. And that really won me round on her. And then she could join the Scoobies, and she played more of a part. And, you know, when she kind of stood up for Xander, when her friends were like taking the piss and stuff, and she like got rid of her friends to be with him. And then seeing her get burned in season 3 from that choice, really, really sad. I ended up really feeling for her in that respect in season 3. Then again, they kind of lost a place for her when that all kicked off with Xander. She was just kind of floating around every episode, like having like 1 or 2 scenes to remind us that she was still around. So again, she kind of grown out of the plot of the show almost, and it makes sense that they bring her over to Angel in that sense to give her more development. And that was a very, very wise decision, and I utterly adore her. Her character journey this season has been fantastic as well. Just think, like, that absolute bitch in season 1 of Buffy, and she's now dedicated herself to save people who are in danger out of the goodness of her heart, because she's witnessed it and felt it herself with all those visions. You know, she has visions now, and she's dedicated to the cause. You know, for most of the season she's like, I want to be an actress, I need to do this, I need to be an actress. And she's kind of juggling going to auditions with Ancient Investigations to kind of get by. But now it seems like she's almost kind of dropped that. I think maybe her experience and, you know, meeting Rebecca and everything in Eternity probably turned her off of that kind of career choice a bit. Maybe they'll pick it back up, I'm not sure, but she has seemed to kind of let go of that quite a bit, and now what she wants to do is something for others. Instead of like being an actress where the spotlight would be on her and she'd get loads of attention, she wants to help the innocent and the helpless and people who no one would really see her get thanked for, and that is one hell of a journey to go on. And you know, there's still some of the classic Cordelia in there. You know, she has her Cordelia-isms. I do think I probably would enjoy her now that I really like her. Watching like the older episodes of Buffy, I'd probably find her quite funny, whereas at the time I was like, you're just such a bitch. Like, she was really mean to Willow in the early Buffy, so of course I was going to hate her, you know. I don't take back hating her, because I think I was very justified in hating her. But yeah, people have told me, like, you'll come round to Cordelia. I was like, yeah, right. Okay, I guess. But that doesn't always happen. It hasn't really happened with Murphy in the 100. People keep telling me, you're going to love Murphy. When I hated him in season 1, like, oh, you're going to love Murphy. I still don't really. I like him a bit better, but, you know, I don't love him. So it doesn't happen all the time, but it did happen with Cordelia. You know, I loved the relationship she was having with Doyle. I love the bond she's formed with Angel now. Like, calling him her family was just so beyond wholesome. She has a really funny dynamic with Wesley as well, which kind of stemmed back from season 3 of Buffy when they were kind of being paired together for a bit. So glad they didn't follow through with that with Angel though. Oh my god. I never really got sold on that in Buffy. And yeah, just seeing her really grow up a bit, I think. She's come such a long way, trying to find her feet on her own. Getting the visions from Doyle when he died has definitely changed her perspective on life, and she's really felt just how much kind of trauma there is in the world and how much better off she probably is compared to so many people, and now she's dedicating her life to like helping them. I think such a crazy turnaround from someone who was so like selfish and mean-spirited in the early days of Buffy. Just seeing her over the years, over the year that I've been watching, seeing her kind of learn to be nice to people has been really, really nice. And obviously she's had some shit happen to her with the whole Xander cheating on her thing. She got impaled with like an iron bar thing. And, you know, her father went to jail, I think. Like, she lost all her money. And even, I mean, a long time ago, Cordelia would have, like, been all about, like, oh, feel sorry for me. Like, I don't have this anymore and this anymore. Now I don't think she'd barely bring it up. She'd just talk about the people they need to help. And that's a fantastic character journey that she's gone on this season. Still very much kind of true to herself, she's still very blunt, and will say what she thinks. But I think now literally it's just what she thinks now herself has changed. I don't think she'll ever change the fact that she'll always say what she thinks. It's just that the way she thinks has changed. And she's just a much kinder soul now than she used to be. Despite bad things happening to her, she hasn't gotten, colder, which I think some people would. And I just find that so endearing. And again, just a really satisfying character arc. And Charisma Carpenter is fantastic. She was great in the season finale, particularly. She's always good in the scenes where you just have to feel really bad for her. Expecting, that episode sucks. At least for me. But Charisma was fantastic in that. That scene where Angel and Wesley find her in her apartment in the bed, and she just looks so scared and terrified and so young. So you kind of forget how young Cordelia still is, really. Which is why it makes her development all the greater, really. But, you just felt so sorry for her in moments like that. And when she was in hospital in the finale. Oh, man. So Charisma's fantastic. It's a hell of a turnaround on the character, I think, with Cordelia. I don't know if I've ever had a more dramatic turnaround on the character. There have been some characters I've hated and then ended up loving. I suppose Bellamy and Kane on the 100, actually. I absolutely adore them now. So I suppose that has happened. But with Cordelia, I've kind of never thought in a million years that, we'd get here. And here we are. It's just insane. And I love her. I love what they did with her in this first season. How far she's come. And I can't wait to see what they do with her in the future seasons. She's fantastic. Since Wesley was in more of the season, I'll talk about him next. I finally talk about Wesley in a character thing on my review, because I forgot to talk about him in Buffy Season 3 in that review. I'm still so annoyed at myself. But here we are. Wesley in Buffy. Comic relief, really. He's a bit hapless. A bit silly. I did feel bad for him at times. I thought they were a bit overly mean to him. But sometimes he was like, okay, you're ruining things now. Like with Faith and everything, he got a bit annoying. He was like, you've ruined everything. You spoiled everything. Why are you like this? But he's had some funny moments. And I thought, he's kind of probably done. Or at least he'd come back to Buffy, who's ever going to come back. But he shows up on Angel as this rogue demon hunter. It was very sudden to have Wesley turn up the episode after Doyle dies. So that was whoa, no, we need to miss Doyle. I don't care that Wesley's here. I want to miss Doyle right now. I want to feel those feelings. And then Wesley ended up being such an interesting guy, such an interesting character. I talk about it later on in some themes, but he's his own worst enemy in the sense that he really did not believe in himself, and his lack of self-confidence was what was holding him back from being a really good rogue demon hunter, because he actually has that in him. In The Ring, I think, when he tortured that guy. I've Got You Under My Skin, I think, was one of the best episodes for Wesley this season. We seem to learn a lot more about him in his past, and clearly, didn't have the best relationship with his father, which is something that can relate. And that links all the main characters, really, because I think it was Doyle's father who was the demon, wasn't it? Maybe? I can't remember exactly. But they all have, at least Angel, Cordelia and Wesley, that kind of the second trio of Angel Season 1. They all clearly have some daddy issues. So I like how that kind of links them together. And we've kind of seen hapless Wesley basically go away now. He brings something great to the team in his research, stuff like that. His unwavering loyalty to Angel, the way he kind of fooled the Watchers Council into thinking he was going to help them capture Faith and take her away from Angel, even though he had no intention of doing that. Even though Faith had just tortured him, he still trusted Angel's call on what to do about that with her, instead of the Watchers Council that he used to be so loyal to. And always regretted being kind of fired from. Just that unwavering loyalty he's developed for Angel, probably because Angel kind of saved him from himself almost, because he was feeling lost in the world, and then Angel gave him a job and stuff. So it was kind of nice that Angel giving Wesley a job meant Angel gave Wesley his purpose, and we end the season with Wesley finding Angel's purpose by, decoding the scroll and the prophecy. So that's kind of nice how that worked out. But yeah, we've seen Wesley kind of become a lot more capable. I think he's starting to believe in himself a lot more and his abilities. He was very insecure at first about, being part of the team. He didn't really feel like he was belonging. Like when Angel accidentally called him Doyle. That might have been I've Got You Under My Skin as well, actually. And to see how far he's come since then, and barely recognisable to the guy we met in Buffy season 3. And I suppose we didn't get a lot of time to get to know him anyway in Buffy, because so much was going on and he wasn't introduced till episode 14 of the season. So there were only like 8 episodes left when he was introduced. We've had, 13 episodes with him, I think, this season. And I'm sure we'll get a lot more, thankfully. And even in that time, coming off the heels of losing Doyle, he had, a lot of respect for Wesley as a character, and obviously the actor as well, to kind of fill those boots, and I think he did a fantastic job of doing that. He wasn't just replacement Doyle, he was Wesley, and that's what he needed to be. He wasn't, exactly the same character as Doyle, he just copied and pasted like Doyle 2.0 to replace it. It was a different dynamic from episode 10 onwards, and I like that they just owned that and went with that. And just see Wesley kind of believe in himself a bit more, lose the haplessness quite a bit. He's not very clumsy now like he was in the earlier episodes in his run with season 1. And just see him form these really close bonds with Cordelia and Angel. Again, just really satisfying. And I really, really love him and adore him now in a way that wouldn't have been possible if they hadn't brought him in for Angel season 1. And if Doyle had stuck around, they never would have done that, really, I don't think, would they? So it's kind of mad how things worked out. I mean, it's an awful situation how that all worked out with losing Doyle. And of course, I would have wished that he would have stuck around. I absolutely would have had Doyle stick around. But that wasn't possible, so we kind of have to let go of that. And unfortunately, Glenn Quinn had a lot of problems going on. And very, very sadly, he's no longer with us. Long before I even knew what Buffy and Angel were, he'd already been long gone, which is a very sad thought, really, because so many of them are still around now. I saw Charisma post on Instagram not long ago. Someone sent me her Instagram. She had I think it was a picture of Glenn Quinn when she was sorting through her stuff and saying he was still here, and I was like, that really got to me. But why we talk about that, we talk about Wesley. I'm literally about to talk about Doyle in a minute, but Wesley's been fantastic this season. He has some big boots to fill, particularly for me, because I loved Doyle so much. He was my favourite up until Hero. Still is one of my favourites, honestly. That's the impact he had. But the development they've given him this season, it's been so good. I'm glad they didn't just leave him be like the comic relief and be hapless forever, because that would have got very tiresome. So I'm glad they kind of changed that up, and we saw there was a lot more to him than meets the eye, and he's always been very capable. He just did not believe in himself, and I think we've kind of learned a lot of that may have stemmed from, his father, maybe, and getting fired for the council certainly didn't help his self-confidence. But yeah, he brings something really cool and unique to the show, and I really, really do love Wesley's inclusion this season. His development's been fantastic. So yeah, Wesley, yes, love him. And then the final main character, I suppose, is Doyle. Main character in less than half of the season. We know how I feel about Doyle. from fairly early on in the run, my absolute favourite, cinnamon roll. And Hero hit me like a ton of bricks, as I'm sure we all remember. I still can't think about it without crying. The way they still gave him a satisfying character arc in just 9 episodes, in just as effective a way for me as Angel and Cordelia's arcs in like 22 episodes, I think is still phenomenal. A lot of that comes down obviously to him being written so well and to Glenn Quinn's incredible performance. I'm so sad that things had to turn out the way they did. But I think they did make the right call, because the pressure Glenn would have been under to continue like learning lines and stuff for like years to come, potentially. You know, that probably would have burnt him out a lot sooner than he burnt himself out, and it's so sad that, you know, he wasn't able to be saved in the end. Because addiction is just such a horrible kind of illness and disease. Because I do see it as a disease. And it's so sad that it came down to that with Glenn, because he was such a fantastic actor, as I saw in just 9 episodes of television. I haven't really had the pleasure yet of seeing him in anything else. But I do want to check out some of his earlier works, because I love Doyle just that much. You know, we were introduced to him just like Angel and Cordelia. He wanted to atone and redeem himself for some past actions. We learnt a bit more about in Hero, but I loved the concept of him being like half demon and him absolutely hating that side of himself. Such a tragedy, and the fact that it was his insecurity about that caused the breakdown of his marriage, and not, you know, anything else. Another really tragic reveal. I love that we at least got one kind of Doyle-centric episode. Technically 2, I guess, if you count Hero. Before he went, I'm really glad we at least got that with the bachelor party. But yeah, I love the kind of almost brotherly bond he was forming with Angel. They became really, really good friends. You know, most of the episodes were ending with a scene between those two that I really, really loved. And his legacy still lives on every time Cordelia has a vision. And I think that's a very nice thought. So I could just imagine him, like, I know it's a bit painful to have the visions, particularly in the finale with Cordelia. Having those constant kind of visions like thrown at her was just awful to watch. And I'm sure if Doyle could see that was happening, he would have like prayed to the powers that be to like, undo it, and would have regretted it. But every time I feel like Cordelia has a vision and tells Angel like where to go, and he fixes it and stuff like that, and she helps in that way, I can just imagine him like looking down on her, being like, "That's my girl," and that's making me really emotional. Oh man, that really got me. Fuck. And then when you think about the finale, all those visions that she had has caused this huge change in Cordelia's character, and now she's like, "We need to help these people. This is what I want to do." She's kind of dedicated her life and changed the course of her life and become a much better person from having these visions. And obviously it was kind of a whole process of getting to that realisation for her, but it was Doyle's kind of gift to her and the trust he put in her to give her those visions that's caused that change in her. Her decision to kind of truly commit herself to saving all these people came from Doyle and what he left behind when he went. And I think he would be immensely proud of that. That's my goal. I really think I can just picture him saying it. And I really love to think about that. It gives me a lot of comfort, even though he's not around anymore. So what they managed to do with Doyle in 9 episodes, have him have this like really nice bond with Angel. The romance with Cordelia, I shipped it so hard, and I'm still so sad that we're never going to get to see it. Because, you know, I think they could have had something really, really nice, and it would have been so nice to see both Doyle and Cordelia kind of move on from, you know, losing their kind of loved ones previously. And the fact that they were going to go on a date, they were going to get dinner, and then but you know, he was kind of tormented for so long about this demon half, scared about Cordelia finding out, but obviously she was absolutely fine with it, which I loved, and that caused like the breakdown of his marriage and everything. He lost so much because of this demon's part of himself that he hated. That ended up being the key to him kind of sacrificing himself in the end, and he didn't think he was ever going to be brave enough to be a hero and fight the good fight. And then Hero comes along, he sees a chance to kind of make amends for a mistake he made before with those people, and he fixes it in the only way he knew how, and in doing so kind of saved Angel's life as well, because he stopped him from doing it, and he learned what the good fight really meant, and I think Angel and Cordelia carry that with them even now. And I love that every now and again, you know, Doyle still gets a mention. Not so much in the later couple of episodes of the season, but they still carried on mentioning him for quite a while after he died, which I really, really loved. But I just loved how funny Doyle could be, but also very kind of tragic and complex. He could, you know, he could have a funny scene and be hilarious. He could have a really sad scene and just make me wail. And, you know, the fact that he never thought he was going to be a hero, then ended up being one. Such a lovely arc for his 9 episodes, and he kind of made peace with himself and found that redemption in the end. And I really, really love that, and it was just such a lovely story that they told with him. I wish we'd had him around for longer. I wish Glenn Quinn was still with us. But unfortunately that's not the way life goes. But I utterly, utterly adore Doyle. I still do. I'll spend the next 4 seasons missing Doyle, wishing he was still around, thinking, oh, Doyle would have found that joke funny. I'd love to have seen Doyle react to this situation, stuff like that. But I'd like to think he'd be very proud of what Angel and Cordelia have done without him. And I think him and Wesley would get along really well as well, which would be quite a wholesome thought. But wherever Doyle kind of ended up, I like to think like the powers that be kind of put him somewhere nice, gave him a whiskey or something. I think he'd be very proud of what's happened since he's been gone. And yeah, just 9 episodes, he's had that impact on me. Testament to the writing and the performance with that character. Doyle is incredible, absolutely loved him, and I still miss him terribly. He's one of my favourite things about Angel Season 1. And just an amazing character for me, and his story meant a lot to me, and I really, really loved that. So that was Doyle. That was also very fucking depressing. So yeah, those are kind of like the main characters to talk about, and then we're just going to go through some of the recurring or one-off characters as well. Just that I felt were like worth mentioning, even if I don't have a lot to say. But the first one is Russell, who's obviously like the vampire villain from City of. I just thought I'd talk about him because he was like the first kind of villain we had really in the entire series. And I thought they did some kind of interesting stuff with him. I liked Cordelia kind of finding out and working out that he was a vampire, and then the way Angel kills him, still one of my favourite moments of Season 1. He just kicks him out the window and he just burns. Oh, it's so, so cool, so badass. So I thought it was kind of an interesting kind of, maybe somewhat generic, but still an interesting villain to have for the first episode. I did like that it started off with the vampire as a villain, and not just like a demon or anything. Because it's kind of nice that, you know, the first big villain Angel kind of faced in his own show was a vampire. It's almost like he's facing an aspect of himself. I really enjoyed that. So yeah, Russell was an interesting kind of threat to kick off the show with. I just thought I'd mention him, give him some kudos there. For some reason I wrote down Ronald. Fucking Ronald. God, he sucked. He was the worst. I just thought I'd mention him because the fact that he was in a terrible episode, I still remember him, so he still had kind of an impact on me, even though what they did with the character sometimes was a bit kind of crazy and ridiculous. But I thought I'd give him a shout out anyway. Well done, Ronald, for ruining my day when I watched that episode, and for taking 40 minutes of my life away that I'll never get back. I just thought I'd mention him because it's a good time. We have fun. We have fun, fucking Ronald. I've kind of grouped them all together when I talk about them. But we have Lindsay, Lila, Lee, and Holland. Obviously, the whole Wolfram and Hart kind of system as a character this season. I loved the idea, kind of like with Buffy season 4, having like the initiative as kind of a threat. We have another group of people on Angel as a threat in Wolfram and Hart. And then we saw a few of like the individual characters, like Holland, like the Big Boss Man. Thought the actor did a great job as him. I hope we see a lot more of him. I don't know, he plays Slimy really, really well. And I'd like to learn a lot more about him. So we've got quite a bit of the dynamic between him and Lindsay, particularly in like Blind Date and stuff. So I'd like to see them kind of explore his dynamics with like Lila, for example. He can't really explain the dynamic, explore the dynamic with Lee, because Lee is dead. But I still thought that was an interesting thing they could do with him, and I'd like to learn a lot more about him. I think that shows what a nice impact he may have had in the limited number of episodes he was in. So I quite like Holland, and I'd like to see what they do with him in future. I feel like they might do a whole thing with like Lindsay even like taking over the whole firm and like getting rid of Holland. I don't know, and we'll see. But he was an interesting kind of guy, very slimy, and I'd like to see a bit more of him. And then Lee, Sheldon Cooper. He does look like Sheldon Cooper. It's really funny. Bazinga. But yeah, we didn't get to learn a lot more about him. I would have liked to see him stick around a bit more. He's kind of there to be a punching bag, really, wasn't he? For Faith, and then for him to get shot in the head. I mean, he was kind of creepy. He didn't know personal space. He had no boundaries there. But I thought I'd mention him because I thought the actor did a fairly good job with the limited amount of material he had. It's kind of a shame we're not going to see more of him, but maybe it's just going to be too crowded. Maybe we're going to be introduced to another 5 new lawyers from Wolfram and Hart next season, I don't know, so maybe there's just not room for Lee. But I thought I'd mention him anyway, because, you know, he had some interesting stuff going on, and I liked the actor quite a bit. Then with Lila, I hope we see a lot more of her. I think we're going to. Because she seemed to have quite a big presence in the ring when she was introduced, and she's kind of stuck around ever since then. I mean, she's pretty bitchy. She's quite the bitch. But I do like seeing her on screen. I like her interactions with Lindsay in particular. I think they have a very interesting kind of love-hate dynamic. Mainly hate, it seems. They like taking the piss out of each other, I think. Almost like a brother and sister kind of thing with those two, really. Very competitive nature. And I quite like the competitive nature she seems to have. Because I think she just takes the piss out of him to hide her jealousy. Because he seems to be kind of a favourite with Holland, really. And obviously he's moving up and she's not. So yeah, she's kind of interesting. Her scenes with Angel in the ring. I kind of wish we got a bit more of that dynamic. Hopefully they can explore that. And I am intrigued as to what her role could be going forward. And is she going to rise up in Wolfram and Hart? Maybe if Lindsay's not going to be an ally to Angel Investigations, maybe Lila could be. Maybe she could get like really jealous of how Lindsay's kind of moving up in the firm. She's not. Maybe she turns to them and helps them instead. That'd be really cool. But we'll see what they do with her. I think she has the potential to be quite an interesting character. They just need to explore her a bit more. Then Lindsay. I really quite enjoy Lindsay and his presence. I liked the kind of, will he, won't he be a good or bad guy this episode? And the fact that he was kind of presented with the chance and the choice to change and he didn't take it. I think it's a very human kind of flaw that he had, and in that sense I think a lot of us could relate to that. At the end of the day, money. But I do like that we kind of saw in like Blind Date and stuff, he does have a moral compass, because he wanted to save those kids, so I really like that aspect to him, peeling away some of the layers there, and I hope he gets a lot more focus in the future, because he was in, I think he was in City of, then he was gone for quite a while, I feel, then he had a bit more of a presence near the end of the season, so I'd like to see him like consistently have stuff to do, and kind of maybe explore his ties between Wolfram and Hart and Angel Investigations. I'd love him to keep like switching and going back and forth. I think that could be an interesting thing, but I really like him. I love the actor. I'm so glad someone pointed out to me that he was in Leverage, because I recognised him and I was like, where do I know him from? As soon as someone like someone suggested like, can you react to Leverage? I was like, he's in Leverage! And I loved him in that. So I'm so glad I can kind of remember where he's from now. So yeah, I really like the actor a lot. And I think it could be very interesting to see where they go with Lindsay next. I feel like he is going to stick to being more of a villain because Angel cut his hand off, which isn't ideal. Ronald knows that pain. Fucking Ronald. But either way, I think that's kind of an interesting character arc that he's been having so far. I'd love to see him continue to go down the what side am I on kind of path. I think it's always an interesting dilemma. What side am I on? So yeah, Lindsay's a very interesting character to me. I hope we get to see a lot more of him. And then I think overall, like some of like the general clients that we've seen throughout the season, they've kind of been up and down in terms of how much I've liked them. You know, the client in episode 1, that woman, I really liked her. Then the woman in I Fall to Pieces, I was like, nee. So I definitely preferred some clients to others in terms of the people they've had to help throughout the season. But you know, I think that's just kind of down to maybe the writers sometimes, or just what they need from an episode. Sometimes a client doesn't need as much focus in the episode as like the monster does, for example. So that's just going to be kind of a thing. I think some characters are going to get served better than others as clients for Agent Investigations. But I thought I kind of mentioned just like the whole general concept, because I do like the idea, kind of like a Sherlock kind of thing, where a client can come in every episode and, this is my problem, can you help me? And that can kind of reveal more about the main characters from the dilemmas they face. So it's a very cool kind of idea, even if it does have mixed results with some of those characters sometimes. And then we have Kate. Kate's an interesting one, because normally I start off hating a character, then end up loving them, as I've already talked about a lot. It's kind of been the opposite for me. I loved Kate when she was first in it. I loved her. I thought she was really cool. I loved the dynamic between her and Angel. I loved that they were becoming like really good friends, stuff like that. I even thought they might probably be like a romance at one point, but they kind of glossed over that, which is fine. Now I'm just like, oh, shut up. I mean, I still like her, I do. But I think the whole thing with her hating Angel for something he didn't really do or had no hand in entirely, it got tired and old very, very fast for me. I'm just like, you need to get over this, I'm sorry. Like, it's gone on for so long, I've kind of lost the sympathy for her about her dad. So I do feel bad for her that she lost her dad, it sucks, but she shouldn't hold Angel solely responsible for it. And it annoys me that she's not smart enough to see that, or I think she was written to be smart enough to see that, but then plot, basically. So kind of a detriment to her in that respect. And I hope they can patch things up the next season, because I do really like Kate. Not as much as I used to, because obviously she just started grating on me a bit, but that's more so the way she's been written, I think, than anything else. Because they hadn't given her anything to do really in the last third of the season except be a bit of a bitch to Angel. So hopefully they can kind of make her be friends with him again and see the error of her ways. I'm sure, I really hope she does, because she seems very smart. She's a very smart woman, and I think in time, when she's like probably grieved and stuff, I think she'll be alright, hopefully. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, it is kind of interesting to have her be like an obstacle. I mean, it was at first, but then we had like Lindsay, more from the heart, taking more of a role. We're like, well, they can be like the human villains now. We don't need Kate to do that as well. Make her be an ally again, because they're running out of allies. But yeah, even so, I really liked her in like the first half of the season, particularly. You know, her kind of learning to trust Angel, then finding out he was a vampire, and then she started to get over that, and then obviously everything with her dad happened. The focus on her and sense and sensitivity I thought was nice. Exploring the kind of dynamic she has with her father, and the tragedy of that really is that they never really properly worked that out and got past it. Seeing her like open up in sense of sensitivity, like breaking down about losing her mum and feeling distant from her dad, like very desperate to like prove herself. It's a really sad story, really. It's kind of sucks the way it's ended and the way it's gone in terms of that. And I really hope that Kate and Angel can become allies again, because I think that would improve the character in my books all over again, and I'd start to really enjoy her presence. Because it is a shame that the way the story went by the end of season 1, I ended up just getting a bit annoyed with her as opposed to loving her like I used to. So we'll see what happens, but overall I still enjoy Kate as a character. I just hope that they can move past the whole hatred thing. And then, very briefly, let's talk about some Buffy characters from the early season 1 thing. Oz. Oz. I miss him so much. I love that he showed up in an episode. It's kind of crazy you think that the characters that could cross over, like, oh, maybe Willow will be an angel, maybe Xander will be an angel. No, Oz. I think that's really funny. But I loved him appearing in the dark. I really liked his dynamic as part of the group. I actually thought he started in fairly well with like the main core cast of Angel. Him and Doyle seemed to have like a good dynamic. I loved him being a badass with his van, like saving the day at the end, help Angel escape was really, really cool. It was just so cool to see him, and that was like the first real crossover we got, because obviously we had the phone call with Buffy in like episode 1s of both seasons, but that was the first time like another character has shown up in Angel, so it was a big deal. I know we had Spike in the same episode, and I'll get to him in a minute. That kind of happened first, but it was still a big deal to kind of get that. And have like one of the Scoobies be an angel was quite a cool thing. But I do love that they had Oz be the one to be an angel, because obviously we lost him in Buffy not long after that, so maybe that's why they did it, to give the audience as much of Oz as possible before he left. And it was just such an absolute joy to see him turn up, because he's one of my favourite Buffyverse characters. I just absolutely adore him. He's one of my cinnamon rolls after all. But obviously, if you want me to talk about him in a lot more detail, watch my previous reviews of Buffy seasons. But yeah, it was great seeing him, and seeing Spike in the same episode turn up. Love him. I've always loved the dynamic between him and Angel. So I think he mentioned like Angel was his sire and stuff. And it was just a really great thing to see him show up, because the kind of banter almost and the rivalry between the two of them in season 2, and I guess in Lover's Walk with Buffy as well. I always loved seeing it. So the chance that we got to very briefly explore that again in the dark was great, and him like hiring that guy to get information to Spike get that amulet thing back. That was really cool. I love how they kind of did all of that with Spike, and he's just so funny, and I loved him turning up. I always love him in everything, every episode. And that's still the time when like he kept having these reappearances. I got really excited when he came back in The Harsh Light of Day in Buffy, and then we had In the Dark. I got excited again. Then he showed up in Wild at Heart in Buffy. I was like, yes! And obviously now he's like a permanent fixture of Buffy, which is great. But it's still nice to look at this, the nostalgia of me getting excited every time Spike came back. And he was great in his Angel episode. I really loved that a lot. Then Dennis. I thought we should mention Dennis. I love that this character that you just don't see. He still has so much presence. I hope we continue to see references to Dennis throughout the show, as him and Cordelia continue living together. I just think it's so cool. I love the idea of Cordelia just living with this ghost all the time. It's a really kind of superb idea, really. And it's also kind of wholesome to know that Cordelia, when she goes home, she's not alone. She has Dennis for company. So it's not like she's just going home to an empty apartment every day. I actually think that's kind of wholesome to think about. But I loved the inclusion of Dennis in Room with a View, or Room-Wa View. Room-Wa View. Now I know what it actually stands for. Inclusion there in the backstory of that is so morbid and dark. So the fact that they can kind of use him after that as a more of a comic relief kind of thing, really makes the bed for her and gives her tissues and expecting Dennis, and he seemed to want to protect her from Faith when Cordelia tried to get back into her apartment. Really wholesome, just little moments like that throughout the season I really, really loved. So I hope we see a lot more of Dennis. He was a really cool and interesting inclusion to the season. Then Trevor. Oh, good old Kate's dead dad. I did like the story they told with him. Initially, him losing his wife and stuff, and then him kind of distancing himself from Kate after that. It's a really sad story. And I thought he actually did a solid job of what he was given. I did like that they never properly resolved that. I thought that makes for an interesting story, because that's very true to life, that some things just don't get resolved. And then we have him like that, and then when he returned in the prodigal and stuff like that, he was caught up in this whole drug thing. I think it was something like that, and obviously that led to his death. So it's kind of sad that he can never truly make amends with Kate. I think they were just starting to, but I liked that he seemed to almost respect Angel, and he was making sure Kate kept tabs on Angel. I think he knows that they're kind of a good match. which is another reason why I hope Kate and Angel can make amends, because it's what Trevor would have wanted. But yeah, he wasn't like my absolute favourite, but I thought I'd mention him anyway, because he revealed a lot of interesting stuff about Kate, who I did like at the time they revealed this stuff. And yeah, it's nice that his death, kind of like Jenny's death in season 2 of Buffy, it just shows that there are consequences. And Kate's going to be forever changed from losing her dad, now being an orphan and stuff. So as a character, he was alright, but I like the way they used him in this season to like move the story along for some certain characters. Then Harriet, I want to talk about next. Obviously Doyle's wife, or ex-wife now, I guess. I would have liked to have seen her kind of come back after Doyle's death, kind of see that impact. Not meant to be, but that's fine. But I quite liked her. She seemed kind of cool. She had a moral compass in the end when she found out what was going on with like her demon husband guy and wanting to save Doyle and stuff. And the fact that she did truly, like, she would have accepted Doyle's demon side. It was him, he couldn't accept it himself. That's what led to the downfall. Really, really sad. The fact that Doyle's no longer around is really, really sad for Harriet, because I imagine she didn't take that particularly well. But I did like her inclusion, more so because it advanced Doyle's story and we learned a lot more about him through her inclusion. So it was great, but as a character I thought she was pretty interesting as well and pretty cool. I really liked her dynamic with Cordelia in particular. So yeah, she was a bit of fun to have around and it advanced Doyle's story. So she was cool. Then the Oracles. Oh boy. Those weirdos. I mean, they were very weird and creepy, but I think they were very interesting to watch at the same time. Which is kind of why I'm a bit sad that they're dead. But yeah, I thought they were an interesting kind of idea to have these people that Angel could just go to talk about stuff like this. But I guess she didn't want to become like overly reliant on them, and that's why maybe they had to go. But either way, I thought the performers did a great job as those roles, and it was like an interesting idea, but I can kind of see why they may not want to stick them around like long term. But they were still kind of cool. I liked the design of them and stuff like that. They reminded me a lot of the Axons from Doctor Who, classic Who back in the day, John Pertwee. They kind of painted gold in a similar way. They look scary like them actually when I think about it. But they were an interesting addition to the season nonetheless. And then let's talk about Buffy before my camera battery dies. It's going to die soon. I'll have to take a break. But Buffy, I think Angel fared better appearing on Buffy than Buffy did appearing on Angel. It seems a lot of people kind of agree that she's a bit out of character in her appearances on Angel, particularly in Sanctuary. I don't like that she went to hit Angel and then went to hit him again. Then when he fought back, she was like, "How could you do this? How dare you? Do you know who I am? I'm Buffy." I didn't like how they kind of handled her there. I mean, I could kind of understand it a bit because she'd just been traumatised by Faith, obviously. But either way, I actually think in like this season of television, referring to Buffy season 4 and Angel season 1 together, I think Sarah Michelle Gellar's probably one of her best performances, if not her best performance in this kind of section, was I Will Remember You. She was beyond incredible in that episode, like so good. I did like that they could kind of explore with Buffy in Angel, Buffy and Angel getting like their happily ever after and their happy ending in that sense, and getting to live that kind of day or so together. And the fact that they had to undo it and she doesn't remember it is so beyond sad. And then kind of exploring how far apart they've drifted was really cool. So they did a lot of interesting stuff with Buffy on Angel. Even if I think they did a better job bringing Angel back to Buffy as opposed to the other way around. It was still really fun to see Buffy turn up on Angel because it's such a big moment, like yes. And yeah, you know, the way she was in I Will Remember You was just so beautifully done, really, really sad. Sarah Michelle Gellar was just sublime. And I did like that they did have her be part of like the two-part of Faith in Angel as well, because obviously she was so impacted by Faith in that story in Buffy. Makes sense that she would be in that and have a role to play there. But I didn't quite like how spiteful she was to Angel about the whole Riley thing. Like, I can trust him. He's different. He's better because I can trust him. Like, unnecessary. Let's be honest. So yeah, I don't think the writing was quite top notch for her in Angel season 1. But still, Sarah Michelle Gellar is always great. It's always great to see Buffy pop up. I hope we see her again in Angel. That'd be really cool. But I also want to see more characters pop up. I like eventually like every single character to at least pop up once. I think that'd just be really, really cool. But I don't know if they're going to do that. But yeah, having Buffy pop up was great. Not perfectly written all the time, I don't think. Not very consistent with her character sometimes. But when it worked, having her show up, it really worked. And it really worked with I Will Remember You in particular. That episode's just stunning. And the whole story they told with her there was so good. And obviously, cause it said just as much about Angel as it did about her. Obviously, it was Angel's show, so it was nice that they explored what that relationship means to Angel through bringing Buffy in as well. And then again, seeing how far apart and how much they've drifted apart in Sanctuary. I really liked that scene because it kind of really put a separate line between the two shows, and it really gave them both their individual identities, and they could only do that by having Buffy actually appear on the show and talk to Angel. So I love that they did it, and it was really it was handled very, very nicely in that sense. And then we'll talk about Penn very quickly from Somnium, Hawkeye, Mr. Jeremy Renner, which is really cool. I love Jeremy Renner just showed up on Angel, amazing. And I loved his character actually. I loved that we kind of dealt with the consequences of Angel's past, going back to haunt him in that sense, which is a big thing in the season really. I just thought he was a very interesting kind of enemy to face as a one-off. Because again, I think some villains in the Buffyverse just work better when we have this like personal connection to them with like the main characters, and we had that with Penn and Angel because they've known each other for a very long time. I just thought he was a really kind of cool, effective villain, and it was kind of his inclusion that led to Kate finding out the truth about Angel, which was great. And I think the right time to tell that story is about exactly halfway through the season. We had that episode, and I really, really loved that episode a lot. And he was just such an interesting villain to me. I really liked that we had this kind of face of Angel's past coming back to haunt him. It just worked so well, and Jeremy Renner was great in that episode. Really interesting character. Obviously, we can't really see him again because he got a bit dusted, unless he comes back in another flashback. Although, do we really want to see the accents again? Maybe not. But yeah, I really liked him as a villain this season, so I thought I'd bring him up. And another thing, Jahira, the woman from She, I just thought I'd bring her up because I think they could have done something really interesting with the character. It just didn't quite work overall, I think. She has some cool aspects to her. I did like her overall, I think, as a character, but I think just the episode surrounding her kind of let her down a lot. And yeah, maybe a cool kind of recurring character if we see her again. Don't know if we will, but I thought I'd bring her up because I think even if the episode she was in wasn't the best by a long way, I think the character herself had some potential. I think the actress did a good job with what she was given. And it was kind of interesting to explore some kind of sexual tension between Angel and another woman that isn't Buffy. So we haven't seen a lot of that, obviously, outside of Darla. And they really did do that with her. So that was an interesting thing they did with her character. But yeah, it's just kind of a shame that the episode surrounding her may not have done justice to how cool she could have been. And then Rebecca, let's talk about her from Eternity. I liked how they kind of used her to explore Angel's immortality and the fact that he'll be around forever looking young. The way they use characters like her to say stuff about Angel and comment on Angel, that always really worked. Because Rebecca, she was an okay character, but it was more so her bringing out Angelus in an attempt to be forever young. And you can kind of relate to what she wanted in that sense, in that twisted way. So that was kind of cool and endearing in that sense. And the relatable side to her made her a more interesting character. And and her like unleashing Angelus was an interesting kind of story, even if it doesn't exactly maybe not always work. If you give it a lot of thought, it may have been a bit of a stupid plan, but still, it was interesting to kind of have a character like Rebecca show up for the impact she had on Angel and Cordelia as well. And she acted as a catalyst to bring Angelus back for a bit, and seeing how Cordelia and Wesley would have dealt with that situation was great. And it is kind of a thrill to see Angelus actually show up. So that was very, very well done, I think. Very interesting in that respect. So it was more so Rebecca as a catalyst more so than the character. I think that really, really worked. But yeah, I thought I'd mention her anyway. Then we have Darla. Darla! Finding Nemo. Love it. I loved, initially getting her into flashbacks. That's all we really saw of her. It was nice because, I think she was so underused and just gotten rid of so quickly in season 1 of Buffy. It was kind of a surprise to keep seeing her turn up in the flashbacks on Angel, but it makes makes a lot of sense. She was a huge influence on Angel when he was Angelus. Big influence on his life there. And she's been really, really cool in season 1 of Angel. In the flashbacks, we've learned a lot more about her. We get a better sense of her, I think, as a character and how she used to be. Seeing her kind of react so badly to Angelus becoming Angel was really, really interesting. I loved that. Just seeing kind of the early days of that relationship was really, really interesting. So I loved that. And the fact that she's now back in the present day, like Cameron's about to die, really, really interesting. And I can't wait to see what they do with her in like this present day setting again. Now that we've seen a lot more of her, we know a bit more about her and how she may work. It just gives the actress more to play with now she's back in the present day. So I'm very, very excited to see what they're going to do with Darla in like present day kind of stuff, not flashbacks, and not when she was kind of underwritten in present day Buffy season 1. So her inclusion in the season was great. I love that they kind of brought her back in the flashbacks as like almost a red herring for her return in the end, because you're not really going to expect to see her at the end in present day when she's only shown up in flashbacks. Very, very cleverly done. Kind of like how they treated Slade Wilson in Arrow in season 1 and 2. And yeah, very, very excited to see what they're going to do with her. So she was a great inclusion in this season, I felt. And my camera's about to die, so I'm going to take a break, and I'll be right back. Okay, and I'm back. Camera's recharged. So, a couple more characters to go through, and the next one is Faith. Oh my goodness. Man. I loved what they did with Faith in the 2 episodes of Angel this season. Holy shit. We had some great stuff with the 2-parter in Buffy. Then obviously that ends with her like leaving, and very soon after that she shows up in LA, hired by Wolfram and Hart to take out Angel, and then through all of that, Angel kind of helps get through to her almost, and she has that amazing moment where she just breaks down in the rain after torturing Wesley and causing all sorts of trouble. Let's not avoid that fact. But yeah, she's just so desperate to die almost, and it's just so sad, and to see her just completely fall apart like that, it's a moment that has been coming since the second she stabbed Alan in season 3 of Buffy. Ever since, she's been hiding how much she struggled with that. It's just been eating away at her, and that was the moment that she just finally let all that out. And just that self-hatred she has for herself is just so sad. Big mood, but so sad. And yeah, it's just such a powerful scene. Eliza Dushku was fantastic in that 2-parter. It was just really heartbreaking to see. One of my favourite scenes of the show so far, for sure. That ending to 5x5, I'm like, oh man. And when I see that dropping the knife and stuff, it's just insane. Even Buffyverse is just great with character development, basically. And you just think, the Faith we first met in season 3 of Buffy, and Faith, Hope and Trick, she changed so much just in that one season. Then we got a bit more development in Buffy 4, season 4 even, and then here she kind of goes around the path to redemption. And it makes sense that she would find that in Angel, where everyone wants to atone for something, basically, and Angel helps her through it because he was so close to getting through to her in Buffy season 3. I just absolutely loved what they did with her in this. You know, I was always hoping that she'd kind of try and redeem herself somehow, and even though she's done a lot of horrible stuff that's almost unforgivable, maybe it's unforgivable for some, she's kind of chosen to change, and I love that development. That just seeing her completely break down, we kind of really see her as the young girl she is, I think, for the first time. We kind of really saw how young she really was, really, in Sanctuary, particularly, when she just looked all like so broken. Such a complex character. I almost wish she was like a main character in either of the shows. I would love Faith to like join Angel Investigations. That'd be so cool if that happened. But I did love that development with her in Angel. So sad, but it just added another whole layer to Faith and some huge development for her. That was done very, very well. They really have kind of taken their time, I think, to get to this point with Faith. You know, they could have had her like redeem herself at the end of season 3 if they wanted to, but I think that may have been a bit too soon. So they've kind of waited an extra year to get to that point, and I just think that's so brilliantly done. I loved her inclusion in Angel, and just that huge turning point I think in the season was that two-parter with Faith. Just like the two-parter with Faith in season 4 of Buffy was a big turning point for the season as well. And the way she just kind of plays into the themes of like redemption, stuff like that, and you know, it allowed us to see a bit more of Wolfram and Hart because they hired her to kill Angel, and the parallels with her trying to kill him with like the arrow again, like in season 3 of Buffy. So well done. Then obviously Buffy coming along, and we saw a lot more about the struggle Faith's been going through, as well as Buffy and them being quite at odds with each other, and Angel trying to get in the way of the two of them. And through Faith's inclusion in season 1 of Angel, as we had like most of the season to really get to know what the show is trying to do and get a feel for it and feel for the characters and stuff like that, just as we really are understanding what the show could be and what it is, even compared to like episode 1, you know, it's changed so much in like those 18 episodes. Just as we get that understanding, we have this story with Faith coming along, and Buffy kind of following her to Sunnydale, even from Sunnydale. And Angel kind of steps in and he like gives Buffy a talking to, and it's like, you know, you don't know me anymore, this is what this is about. And all that kind of stemmed from him trying to help Faith in her redemption. And through Faith's story in Angel, we learned a bit more about what the show was, and we kind of got that great speech from Angel about, you know, this is how I do things, you don't know me anymore, stuff like that. You know, just letting us know what the show is, and I loved that kind of moment. It was so well done. And seeing Faith make that decision herself to kind of hand herself in, I love that, you know, she was given that choice and she took the chance in the end, whereas Lindsay didn't. A couple of episodes later, I liked that quite a bit. And yeah, just to see where she goes from here, I'm very, very excited. I do hope we see her again very, very soon. Surely that can't be it, you know? She's taken the first step, but I'd love to see her like go the whole way. That'd be such a satisfying kind of thing to see. But this was a great turning point for Faith's character arc, and it was so cool to see, so satisfying, heartbreaking, really exciting. And I just love Faith as a character. And I think she slotted into Angel, the field of Angel, really, really well, just like Oz did. I could really see a place for her in the show, so I'd love to hopefully see her pop up in the show again at some point, because she was just fantastic. And I always get excited to see Faith because she's one of my favourites. She's really, really complex and such a well-rounded and well-written, well-acted character. So Faith is fantastic. I loved her arc on Angel. Hope we get to kind of really see it through to a really satisfying conclusion by the end of, you know, the run of both shows. So yeah, Faith's fantastic. I loved her inclusion in season 1 of Angel. Then David Nabbit. Dang Nabbit. I just thought I'd mention him because, you know, he brought a bit of light relief, I guess. He's a bit awkward, which is a big mood. And while I still stand by you didn't really need him in the finale, because I don't think a character should be used just to play into like a theme or anything. I feel like a character should be used because of the character and the story. I don't think they really did that with him in the finale. He was kind of just there to say something about Angel. I kind of wish he had something to say about the story as well. But you know, I don't mind his inclusion in there, but I still appreciate the fact that we kind of saw this guy who has loads of money and everything, but he still doesn't quite have that life, and he may not have the drive in terms of like a personal life and stuff like that, and that was kind of very quickly compared to Angel. So I could see why he was being used and stuff like that. He seems like a nice enough guy. I would love him to just like for the next 4 seasons, just every now and again, he's just like sat awkwardly, like trying to talk to them, and then just leaves. That'd be really funny. Like he doesn't need like a character arc or anything necessarily. He could just show up, say something awkward, and leave. Like every season, and I have to find that quite funny. So I don't know if we do see any more of him. I mean, I didn't think we'd see him again after that initial episode, but he came back in the finale for some reason. But yeah, he could be quite an interesting kind of bit of comic relief if they keep bringing him back. I don't know if they will. If they don't, fine. If they do, cool. But yeah, thought I'd mention him anyway. So that's David. Could be an interesting addition if they continue to explore it a bit more. If you were going to bring him back for that finale anyway, you feel like he's going to have some kind of significance going forward. So I feel like we're going to see him again. My voice just went, see him again! And then finally, Gunn. J. August Richards. Deathlock himself. I loved seeing him pop up in the show. I didn't know he was in the show. But I'm a big fan of him in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so I got quite excited. And overall, I think, a very interesting character. And he kept coming back as well when I thought maybe he could be done after that one episode, but no. So that's cool. And I feel like we're going to keep seeing him because he could potentially be that ally that Angel Investigations can go to, where Kate isn't quite that anymore because of everything with that. And I liked the idea behind him, like making his own way in life, having like this group of people who like hunt vampires and demons and stuff. I thought it was a really cool idea and great introduction to him. I mean, I didn't give a shit about him and the storyline with him and his sister because I thought the sister was just a terrible character. But you do kind of feel bad for him, and I like his kind of willingness to help Angel out in both the times he's been like asked for a favour. I just feel like there's a foundation for a pretty cool friendship there. I think they do respect each other quite a bit already. Maybe they'd be quite reluctant to admit that, but I think that's definitely there. And he seemed very kind of keen to help, and he definitely has a good sense of morality in that sense, which I really, really appreciated from him. And yeah, he seems like quite a cool guy. He left quite a decent first impression on me, so I'd love to see him again if we do get more from him. His inclusion in Blind Date and then to Shanshu in LA was pretty cool. I would have liked to have actually seen more of him in Shanshu in LA, because he was only really in that one scene that we didn't really see him act on what Angel asked him to do, which is a bit of a shame, and I suppose that's a testament to me liking that character and to the character himself, because I obviously wanted to see more of him. So yeah, I liked Gunn quite a bit, and hopefully we'll get to see a bit more of him. But he had a very interesting kind of setup, and he could be an interesting ally for Angel, I think, going forward. So I'd love to see more of him if we do. And I feel like we might, because, I know all too well, Joss likes reusing his actors as much as he can. So if they can bring him back in, any capacity, I think they'd probably do that. So yeah, really enjoyed Gunn. I did like the kind of idea behind his character, and he seemed like a kind of cool, funny guy. So we'll see what happens if we see him again. But he was really cool. So yeah, that's kind of all the characters I really want to talk about. So quite the interesting kind of collection, I think, of characters in season 1 of Angel. I mean, obviously the main cast are kind of like the strongest characters, or the characters that we've seen in Buffy were like really impactful, like Faith, etc., even though they weren't like main characters. But there's still quite a few of them alive and out there, like the Wolfram and Hart lot, so I'm excited to see where they're going to take some of these characters in future. Because they always surprise me with the kind of secondary recurring characters, what they do with them, because I never really guess or can predict when we see them again, or if we never do. So I'm kind of excited to see what they do with all these characters that are still with us by the end of season 1. So yeah, really cool, interesting set of characters, and that's basically everything I have to say on that subject. So next, we're going to talk about the themes, and I'm going to turn the page. So yes, a couple of themes. How many did I come up with? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 I think I have. And yeah, again, these are just what I got from like watching the show once over for the first time. I may have missed some really obvious ones if I go and look back, but you know, I don't want to go through absolutely every single thing and every single example for everyone. Obviously, I'm not going to go through all of that, but you know, I don't want this video to be. I say I don't want it to be like too long, but it's going to be long anyway because it's me yabbering on. But still, themes for Angel Season 1 that I picked up on anyway. I think an obvious one to start with is obviously like redemption, making amends, seeking atonement, that kind of all rolls into one really. I think that's the biggest theme in the show, particularly in Season 1. And you know, I always feel like, you know, Season 3 Episode 10 of Buffy is like a backdoor kind of pilot, or Angel Episode 0 for it. So like a backdoor pilot for Angel in that sense. And that episode is literally called Amends. You know, it's kind of a one-word summary of who Angel is and what he's striving for. So of course, a big thing of him, you know, in his own show would be trying to get that redemption he's so desperately after. Not Red Dead redemption, clearly, but it's just a big theme, and that runs through like most of the characters really. So obviously Angel is trying to kind of make amends and get redemption for his actions as Angelus, stuff like that. How things really went quite badly wrong in Sunnydale. And we know that's going to kind of be like a long-running thing because of the prophecy and what that says about, you know, he still needs to do quite a bit yet before he gets his reward, but that means, you know, he kind of has a goal in sight and an endpoint. So I think Angel's quest for redemption may kind of encapsulate the entire run of the show, I feel. So I don't think we're going to have like 2 or 3 seasons where Angel's human, you know? I don't think they do that. That kind of takes away quite a few story points, I imagine. And they've already done like one story already, and I Will Remember You with Angel as a Human, so I don't think they're going to repeat it too soon. So there was that. Obviously Cordelia was kind of, she even mentioned once like when all this stuff was happening to her, she felt like she was being punished for the way she used to be in high school and stuff. So she's trying to like seek redemption for that, and she's definitely on the right path to that now. She's kind of have this new goal of need to save everyone and help all these people, so that's really cool. Doyle, another one. You know, he wanted kind of redemption for the mistakes he made with, you know, the other people of, you know, his demon race, and they were kind of all killed. Was it by the Scourge? Were they called Scourge? I can't remember exactly. Scourge or Scourge or something like that. And, you know, he is kind of the exception to the rule almost, in that he actually has kind of found his redemption, unfortunately through death. But he kind of made amends for some of his sins, and it was nice to kind of see, with redemption being such a big theme in the season, it was nice to see someone like actually achieve that. Whereas I feel like it's still kind of ongoing for, particularly for Angel, but for Cordelia and Wesley, etc. as well. So speaking of Wesley, he's also kind of seeking redemption for maybe his mishandling of the whole Faith situation in Buffy Season 3. His regret probably of being fired from the council and everything like that. He's desperately trying to redeem and prove himself to everyone as well. He spent a lot of time trying to prove himself to Angel, I feel like, and he got over that by the end of the season, which was a nice little character, you know, arc. So yeah, Wesley's clearly wanting to be redeemed as well and make amends for mistakes he made as Watcher. Another obvious one is kind of Faith, and not the George Michael song, but the character, and her trying to redeem herself for her actions in Buffy Season 3 and 4, and the events of 5x5 as well. So there's a lot of, you know, atonement needed to be found there for Faith. In a sense, Lindsay, because I feel like there's a chance he could still be redeemed, because obviously he has like a good heart really about like the blind kids and stuff, trying to work with Angel to save them, and the fact that he was offered the choice to try and like, you know, find a better path and abandon Wolfram and Hart, but he didn't take it, so that still kind of fits into the redemption, because it's kind of a lack of, or turning your back on the chance to redeem yourself. But maybe he'll make amends for that one day. Then I also kind of put Kate, because it's more so my hope that she'll be redeemed. Not that she's like wrong to feel the way she feels, I can kind of understand it, but I think she has taken it a bit too far, and you know, she's making it a bit too personal in that sense. But also I feel like she wanted to feel like she was redeemed in her father's eyes as well, like in Sense and Sensitivity. I think she almost blames herself for the way her father kind of distanced himself from her, and almost kind of made it out to be her fault. She feels like she has something to prove, and she feels like she needs to like make up to things for her dad, which is probably not the case, which is very sad for her really. But that kind of, you know, folds into that theme as well of redemption. Then another theme is being your own worst enemy, which I think I talked about in Buffy season 3 as well, so I like that it's carrying on to Angel. And Angel is an example of that theme. You know, when he got that amulet thing that allowed him to walk in the sunlight, you know, he chose to destroy it. He still holds, you know, his actions against himself, and sometimes that can cause problems. And because of that, he needed a prophecy to give him something to live for, instead of him just allowing himself to, you know, forgive himself. So there's that. Wesley being his own worst enemy as well, I felt like, because of his lack of self-confidence in himself, and he'd be much more capable a lot sooner on in the run of the season if he just believed in himself a bit more and had a bit more self-confidence. But I think he kind of found that as the season went on, in Angel and Cordelia kind of really believing him and stuff like that, and we saw he's a lot more capable than we may have been led to believe previously, and that's just mainly because of his own kind of insecurities. So yeah, that was kind of interesting. Doyle being his own worst enemy as well, in the fact that his marriage didn't break down because he was half demon. It was more the human side of him, and that couldn't accept the demon side that caused the breakdown of the marriage. And she left because of him, not because he was half demon. So his kind of self-loathing and self-hatred of himself led to him being his own worst enemy, pushing people away, kind of like Angel pushed people away as well. And then I also feel like Kate was her own worst enemy, in the fact that she couldn't let the thing go with her dad and stuff like that. You can kind of understand it to an extent, but again, I think she went a bit too far with it. And that's only hurting herself, because she's not, by being angry with Angel, she's not allowing herself to move on and grieve properly. So that's damaging herself, and I don't think she even realises that exactly. And, you know, her obsession with, like, now investigating all these, like, strange cases, because she just can't let this thing go, and she's not allowing herself to process everything properly and move on. So there's that. Faith and her kind of self-hatred and her kind of wanting to die. She wanted to, like, kill herself, or she wanted someone to kill her just to, like, relieve herself of the pain that is her own existence, which is very sad. But I think she's kind of learning to deal with that now, and she's making the choice to be better, which is good. So she's not quite, luckily she does not quite fit into that theme anymore, but she was when she first appeared in Angel. I'd say Lindsay is almost his own worst enemy as well. And it's more so Wolfram and Hart's influence, I know, but he made that choice to take that promotion and not do the right thing. And that's a very human flaw, so you can kind of understand it to an extent. So I want to say, oh yeah, we're all human, but this is a show about demons and stuff. But yeah, in the end, his will just wasn't strong enough to not take that deal. So he's kind of his own worst enemy in that regard. I also wrote down Ronald, just because I wanted Ronald to be useful for something, in the fact that he kind of literally tore himself apart in the end. So, kind of fits, but I just wanted something good to come out of I Fall to Pieces. So yeah, that's kind of the theme of being your own worst enemy. I also thought, like, finding your own path and making your own way in life was a theme. Angel coming to LA to kind of find himself, find this new life for himself, find a purpose. Cordelia doing exactly the same thing. She wanted to get by on her own because her family didn't have money anymore, so she had to make her own money. She wanted to make a name for herself in like show business. And from then, kind of her path has been ever changing. And she's now found the way forward in her life with this new mission to really dedicate herself to helping people. And Wesley making his own way by being a rogue demon hunter. And then he kind of found a place in Angel Investigations after that. But for a while he was kind of on his own. He wasn't a watcher anymore. He didn't really have that label. So he kind of went rogue instead, and yeah, found his own way from there. And also Gunn, I put like making his own way in the world, because he's doing his own thing, like his group of people who fight demons, rogue demon hunters again. And he seems like a guy who would really kind of own his shit, you know. He's clearly doesn't easily accept help, and it probably wouldn't admit that he needs help sometimes. So he makes his own way in life as well. And then another theme is like lost love and losing a loved one. And I think a big one there is like Buffy and Angel. They got that happy ending. They found a way to be together and, you know, sharing their love, but it wasn't meant to be, and Angel had to give up in the end, so he lost that. And Buffy lost her memories of that love. Cordelia and Doyle, it's kind of a what could have been, you know, just they got to that place. They were going to go on a date, but fate had other ideas, and Doyle was, you know, killed. So there's a potential for lost love there and what could have been. Then obviously Doyle and Harriet was their lost love, because their marriage didn't work out because of Doyle's kind of issues about his half-demon side. And Gunn and his sister, I think her name was Alana. I wrote down Alana, but I can't really remember because I didn't really care about her. But he lost a loved one as well because he had to kill her when she became a vampire. So that was another theme I picked up on. And then another theme is like humanization and the human versus the demon side. And seeing like demon things kind of humanized and domesticized in a way, like I talked about in my season 4 review of Buffy. So we had like the family of people in the bachelor party who like wanted to eat Doyle's brain or something. And another one for this theme is Angel himself. You know, the kind of human and demon ever fighting in his head with Angelus and, you know, his souled self. And when he was affected by the spell and sense and sensitivity, we saw even more of a humanization in him there. And throughout the run of the show, as he kind of opened himself up to Cordelia and Doyle and Wesley, we've seen him become a lot more kind of humanized in that sense, and therefore he can talk to clients a lot easier and stuff like that. So that's a big part of it. And then Doyle is kind of the physical embodiment of this theme, because he's literally half human, half demon. And it's kind of which side is going to win out. And I think in the end he did kind of come to terms with it, because he died in, he went in the act of dying in his human form, and he kept like switching between them both, human and demon, in his final moments. And that was kind of him, I think. It was like a balance, because it kept switching between the two. He'd finally found that balance in inner peace, and then it was the end for him, unfortunately. So there was that as well. The like demon refugees almost in Hero. So that's a humanization of some demons there in that sense, but because they're using kind of demons and stuff and other creatures as a representation for real world problems. So it kind of fits into that theme in that sense. And like the demon auction in Parting Gifts is another kind of very human concept that's kind of been literally demonized. So I thought that was kind of an interesting idea. Also Angel and that little clip in She when he's like doing the dancing, he like sees himself like what he could look like when he was dancing. Just another bit of humanization towards his character. And the little boy in I've Got You Under My Skin, who we assume is just like possessed by this demon. So there's again a humanization versus demon kind of thing there. And then we get that twist where it was like that boy just doesn't have a soul to begin with, and the demon was like desperately trying to get out of the kid because the kid was the scary one. So I really liked that, and I thought that was a very good example of that kind of humanization versus demonization theme, I guess, is a good way of like summarizing it properly. So there was that. Then another theme was family, and an obvious one is obviously the trio at the end of the season: Angel, Cordelia, and Wesley, calling each other their family. You know, Angel called Cordelia family in the hospital, and Cordelia called Angel family when she gave him the blood in her apartment at the end. And they kind of found that family in each other, which is really wholesome and a really cool kind of series-long thing. And obviously they would have got there with Doyle as well. I think the original trio there, they were finding like a family bond. So that's a big example of that. Again, Gunn and his sister. We saw like loads of different, very twisted and maybe fucked up examples of families in this season. Gunn and Alana being one of them. His sister became a vampire. He had to kill her. Again, like the refugees almost in Hero. You know, they were like in groups of families. Dennis and his mum. You know, that's a very messed up kind of family dynamic there with those two. So obviously she ended up like imprisoning him in a wall and just died. Like, that's still so dark. And then that family and I've Got You Under My Skin, that's kind of get almost ripped apart at the end when the boy tries to burn the house down and gets taken away. There's almost kind of a family dynamic with Wolfram and Hart in a weird, crazy sense. Not the whole like shooting their employees, but it does almost feel like a family dynamic, or at least I think Holland may want them to feel that way so he can kind of get his way over them. Because, you know, I think he very much manipulates, you know, the people below him to kind of keep them on side. I think he even called Lindsay's son a couple of times. So it's that kind of twisted family bond with them as well. Then also, the last example is Kate and her dad, Trevor. You know, kind of distance between them that was never fully resolved. And it's kind of satisfying, oddly satisfying that it's never like properly resolved, really, the whole events of Sense and Sensitivity and stuff like that. That's another kind of untraditional kind of broken family dynamic that ran through the show. So it was interesting that Angel and like the main characters were kind of experiencing and witnessing all these different messed up family dynamics, and then ended up forming their own family at the end of the season. I thought that's kind of cool. And then the last kind of theme was the idea of corruption. I think Wolfram and Hart is a big, you know, example of that. You know, a corrupt law firm. Not many people you'd like trust to be on your side, but they're kind of supporting the wrong people for the wrong reasons. And, you know, it goes a lot deeper than you might think a law firm should. Another obvious example is Angelus, and, you know, the corruption of his soul, particularly when Angel was forced to become Angelus in Eternity. He was kind of corrupted in that sense, very briefly. So there's that, and also like the demon auction in Parting Gifts again. It's kind of a corrupt kind of business, very like behind the scenes hush-hush kind of thing. And also the events of The Ring is kind of very corrupt as well. These guys just like kidnapping demons, forcing them to fight and kill each other. A very kind of corrupt operation going on with that as well. So those are just a few examples of all the themes that I picked up on this season. I'm sure there are more themes that I've missed, probably some obvious ones that you're shouting at me about. But yeah, that's kind of what I picked up on going through the season for the first time. But in years to come, I can keep going back and probably find lots of new, interesting stuff. And that's one of the best things I think about the Buffyverse. Just watching it, knowing that you're missing so much and you can't wait to kind of rediscover it later on down the line when you kind of have seen the entire series and the whole thing. Because I think the best analysis probably does come when you see the entire amount of the show. So obviously I can't quite do that yet. Still got a long way to go. 7 seasons altogether still to go with Buffy and Angel. So yeah. So yeah, that's all the themes. That's everything I have to say about that. And now we move on to episodes and our favourite episodes for Angel Season 1. And thank you to everyone who voted on my post on the community tab. We've got just over 100 people commenting, which is really, really cool. Oh, my cat just walked out of the room. She's clearly not interested in our favourite episodes. Fine, whatever. And yeah, 22 episodes, and with all your votes, it kind of got narrowed down to 15 slots, basically. And there was a clear winner. I was actually quite surprised by, well, not really surprised, but I think my top 5, pretty much the same, just kind of swapped the numbers around a bit. And I think there's one quite major exclusion from my top 5 that I hope people don't hate me for. But yeah, anyway, let's go to your votes once I counted them all up. So, joint 15th for you guys. I Fall to Pieces, Sense and Sensitivity, Expecting, She, and Warzone, which all got nothing, no votes whatsoever. And obviously, I mean, it's not to say, like, I like Sense and Sensitivity and I like Warzone as episodes, but I can understand why I didn't get any votes, because I don't think, you know, many people would say, oh yeah, well, they're good episodes. I don't think people would say it's like my absolute favourite of the season. That's in my top 3 favourites. So you can kind of understand that. I Fall to Pieces, Expecting, and She, I think, kind of deserve to be there. So yeah, that's kind of joint 15th. 14th is Lonely Heart, which got 1 vote. 13th is The Ring, which got 2 votes. 12th is The Bachelor Party, which got 3 votes. 11th is Eternity, which got 4 votes. 10th is Somnambulist, which got 5 votes. Joint 9th is In the Dark, Parting Gifts, and I've Got You Under My Skin, which have got 7 votes. Joint 8th is City of and Blind Date, which both got 10. 7th is The Prodigal, which got 11. 6th is Room with a View, which got 24. 5th is Sanctuary, which got 26. I was actually very surprised at the love for Room with a View. Like, that did really, really well. I was actually quite surprised. It's a good episode, but I didn't expect it to do quite as well as this, so that's kind of interesting. So yeah, Sanctuary was 5th with 26. 4th was Hero with 30. 3rd was I Will Remember You with 32. 2nd was to Shanshu in LA with 45. And in a landslide, shocking probably no one, number 1 was 5x5 with 83 votes. So those were your kind of the rankings based on all your guys voting for your top 3 favourite episodes. So yeah, thank you to everyone who put some votes in for that. I always am humbled by the amount of love those posts get, and it really does make things really interesting for me to kind of compare and contrast mine. I think it's pretty cool. And yeah, my top 5 then. I struggled to come up with number 5. I was torn between quite a few for like the number 5 slot, and I kept swapping 3 and 4 around quite often. But yeah, hopefully people won't be mad. I mean, it's my opinion anyway, so it doesn't really matter if you get mad. But yeah, for an honourable mention, because I do tend to include an honourable mention, I've actually put it as I've Got You Under My Skin, which very nearly took 5th for me. I just really, really like that episode. There's just something about it I really loved. I think mainly because of the character development Wesley got in that episode, and the focus on him, I think, was really, really good. And I love some good character stuff. And I loved the twist of like the kid just not having a soul in the first place. I thought that was done very, very well. Yeah, so there were a few like scenes that kind of slowed it down a bit for me, and that's the only reason why I think I chose other things above it. But that's still a very good episode, and I just wanted to shout that out because I really liked that one. But yeah, my top 5 anyway. For me, number 5, I wasn't expecting it to make the top 5. But looking back, I did really, really love this episode, and it's In the Dark. Going back and like rewatching some scenes, rewatching my reactions, listening to some of my comments that I had, it really helped kind of shape my top 5 a lot. And also a sense of nostalgia, I think, shaped this one, particularly with In the Dark being 5th. Because Spike and Oz, that's kind of my main reason, and I'm nostalgic for the times when Oz was around all the time. So I loved him kind of showing up. I loved his role to play. I loved that Spike was in there, and how that was like a follow-on from, you know, episode 3 of Buffy season 4. I like how that kind of tied into that. I liked the exploration of Angel's guilt. You know, they really kind of hit home with the whole need for redemption in that episode with the human Tic Tac vampire guy, who was a very cool villain as well. I really liked him. So it revealed a lot about Angel's kind of insecurities and what he really wanted. And again, it kind of made it clear what the show was going for and what Angel was after. So I really, really liked that. So it really kicked off the redemption theme quite well. And yeah, just seeing Spike interact with Angel again was great. And you know, everything with Oz was really, really cool. And the moral dilemma it presented with Angel finally getting his hands on the ring and then deciding to destroy it in the end. I wonder how Buffy felt about hearing about that. Like, she sent Oz to go and deliver that ring to Angel, and he just fucking destroys it. I suppose she trusted him to do whatever he wanted to do with it, so it's fair enough. But I liked that as well, and it ended with like a really nice scene with Angel and Doyle at the end. So it's just really fun episode in terms of like exploring some of the characters and really kicking off the themes of the show in a big way. And cherry on top was Oz and Spike showing up. So I view it very like nostalgically now. Oz really isn't around much. And I really liked the other villain alongside Spike as well. I thought he was pretty cool. So yeah, number 5, In the Dark. Number 4 is I Will Remember You. Hopefully people won't kill me for it not being in the top 3. But again, a fantastic episode. Really, really well done. I think just not higher because I think it took a bit of time to get going. But it kind of needed that setup to obviously get Angel hit by the demon blood or whatever it was. But it still kind of took a bit of time to get going. But obviously Buffy showing up is a big thrill. And the whole story of them kind of Angel becoming human, finding that kind of happy ending for them, and then having to give that up to save the world. And Buffy forgetting it, and it seemed like they almost made no progress in trying to kind of reconnect. So tragic and heartbreaking. The performances, particularly by David and Sarah in that episode, were just stunning. Really, really sad. If an episode makes me cry, I normally tend to love it, with the exception of Wild at Heart, because that just breaks my heart for bad reasons. And yeah, it was just done so well. Obviously, like, Doyle and Cordelia didn't have as much to do in that episode, which I would have liked to have seen a bit more of. But obviously this was kind of the Buffy and Angel episode, so I can kind of let that go and understand it. But it was still a really heartbreaking, well-told story. And a really great tribute, I think, to the love Buffy and Angel shared. I can imagine like huge die-hard Buffy and Angel fans loved and hated that episode entirely. It was a really great way of potentially rounding off their relationship. I don't know if they ever really explore that again, but it was still a fantastic story. So well done, so well acted. And yeah, I just really, really loved it a hell of a lot. And I think that might have been the episode that introduced the oracles as well, which obviously then went to play a role in like parting gifts, etc. So there's still some setup there as well. It wasn't just like this one-off, but it also dealt with a major part of Angel's character prior to his show starting. So I just fantastically beautiful, heartbreaking story. So well done, and I love that episode so much. And then 3rd place is Sanctuary. Another episode with Buffy in, and also Faith. I loved what they did with the whole kind of story. I wish we kind of got a bit more of like direct focus on Faith herself and stuff, but we still had some really nice moments. Buffy showing up was cool, even if I didn't quite exactly like everything they did with her character. They made her a bit spiteful for my taste at the end. But having the Watcher's Council show up as well, and then have Faith make that decision to turn herself in, and just dealing with the aftermath of the previous episode, and like having Wesley just trust Angel's gut even though Faith had tortured him. Brilliantly done, and I really enjoyed how it dealt with like the aftermath of the previous one. Kind of non-stop action, really exciting. Some really cool kind of sequences. I loved Angel just like yeeting onto the helicopter. Really, really good stuff. And I think it would have done a bit better in my view if they had kind of really directly explored Faith a bit more. So I think there was a bit of time where Faith wasn't quite the focus, and I kind of wish they kept her as like the centre of it all. But I can understand they had to bring Buffy in and stuff like that. And they even like moved Cordelia out of the way in the like first few minutes of the episode, and then we don't see her again. So they gave her a bit of focus, but I would have liked a bit more. But nonetheless, a fantastic episode that I absolutely adored. And yeah, having faith in it really is going to help an episode, I think, for me, because she's just so good. And yeah, so number 2, second place is Hero. Probably not really a surprise for people that made my top 5. But man, my Doyle heart rose in my chest and sunk in my chest very, very quickly. It was a fantastic way of kind of wrapping up Doyle's all too brief character arc. So emotional. I liked what they kind of did with like the parallels to like the refugee crisis and stuff like that, and illegal immigrants, paralleling kind of real world issues. We kind of had like a Nazi kind of set of demons, and it was just kind of a really heartbreaking departure. And it was like, oh shit, the game's changed. They've just killed off a main cast member 9 episodes into the show. Obviously they had their reasons for having to do it, but it was still kind of a game changer of an episode for me. Even though I lost, like, at that point, my favourite character in the show. He still is one of my favourites. I love Doyle so much. It was still a very fitting end to his character, I feel. And it still has that impact later on. And, it's a key one for me because I also know it's a key episode for the show, because it was just never the same after this. And then there's always going to be a door-shaped hole in the show for me, really, even with the introduction of Wesley and everything. But you could see how Angel and Cordelia were affected by this episode going forward. And it really did change things and really elevated Angel into something else entirely, I think. It was just like, holy shit. They went there, they did that. And for that episode to be right after I Will Remember You is just rude, to be honest. That was 2 gut punches in a row. And it was around that time I was still grieving losing Oz in Wild at Heart. So that was a rough few weeks of reactions. Like, man, my poor tear ducts. But yeah, a beautiful, tragic, heartbreaking story to send Doyle off. But a really nice kind of rounding up to his character arc. The way they kind of went back to the advert they were recording at the start. Just to have like its funny moments, which I always enjoy out of the Buffyverse episodes. And then they used that to break our hearts at the end. Poignant, beautiful, really, really sad. But, I think they really respected Doyle's character and respected Glenn as an actor. They gave him some really good material to work with in his last one. So yeah, it's just, I'm really glad that Doyle got the send-off he deserved if he was going to have to go. And Hero was just a stunning way to kind of, round off that character in a satisfying but heartbreaking way. So Hero is definitely number 2 for me. Certainly would have been number 1 if we didn't have another certain one that we all agreed on, clearly, because my number 1 pick as my favourite episode of Angel Season 1 is 5 by 5. Holy shit. Non-stop action and excitement from start to finish. Faith coming back, so cool, even though I kind of got a bit spoiled that Faith was going to be in the episode. Which did kind of sour a bit of my enjoyment at the start, but nonetheless, what they did with the character, like some really hard to watch scenes where she was like torturing Wesley, bringing the Wolf from the Heart plot, really kind of escalating that in a big way was great. Seeing like Angel and Cordelia and Wesley like react to seeing Faith again was such a huge thrill. It's a really cool like fight sequences. The fight between Angel and Faith at the end was done really, really well. The acting was top notch. Eliza Dushku was fantastic. That final scene in the rain, man, one of the most powerful scenes I think we've seen in the Buffyverse. I love the shot of Wesley dropping the knife when he's kind of like followed them out. Really, really cool. A really powerful kind of gut punch of an ending to an already very, very exciting and cool and brutal episode. and obviously it kickstarted a character development for Faith that I really, really did want and really, really loved. And it was kind of satisfying to almost see Angel be successful in getting through to Faith in the end, when he kind of was interrupted from doing so in season 3 of Buffy. It was another kind of big turning point, I think, for the season, kind of like Hero was, because it was nice to really see Angel do some serious good and make some serious change to people. So obviously we've seen that quite a bit throughout the season, but it was mainly like characters we'd only just met. So to see a character like Faith that's been already very well established be helped by Angel investigations, it was a big deal, and a really powerful, really sad, beautiful moment. One of my absolute favourite moments in the Buffyverse, and far and away, I think, the most brilliant episode of Angel Season 1. So well paced, well written, well acted, well put together in so many different ways. I just absolutely loved it. Yeah, fantastic. Like, 5 by 5 was like everything the show could and should be. Yeah, brilliant. I just loved it every second. Fantastic stuff with that, and that's my top 5 episodes of Angel Season 1. There we go. So yeah, no season finale in my top 5. Please don't kill me, even though that was your guys' like second place. I liked it, but I was very honest in my reaction to it. I wasn't like blown away by it by any means. I thought it was okay. It did what it needed to do, and that's enough, really, honestly. So yeah, don't track me down somehow, burn my house down, and write to Shanshu in LA in my blood or something. Don't do that, please. But yeah, that's my top 5, and that's kind of the roundup of my overall thoughts on season 1 of Angel. So now, to finish off, I'm going to go through some of my predictions for season 2. I really don't know what to expect from season 2. I've kind of really reached the point in the Buffyverse where I couldn't really predict where they were going in the next season. Mainly because like Restless, for example, didn't really set up a lot of season 5 that I know of, because I haven't watched it yet. So when I go back and see Restless again after I've like watched the rest of Buffy, I'll be like, oh yeah, that was setting up that, and that was setting up that, that was foreshadowing that. Whereas a first time watch without knowing what's coming, you don't really know what's being foreshadowed yet. So I couldn't really predict season 5 of Buffy very well. And again, I couldn't really predict season 2 of Angel, because the whole Dharma thing kind of threw me in a big loop, and I don't know where they're going with that. And the whole prophecy thing could go anywhere, because it's kind of such a vague kind of topic, prophecies and foretellings and stuff like that. So I really did struggle this time around to kind of predict like future seasons, and I really don't know. So obviously I'd kind of been spoiled on a few things in like the earlier seasons of Buffy. So we really have reached a point where I just do not know a bloody thing going forward, which is very, very exciting. But it also makes this part of the reviews pretty dull, because I can't really predict anything. Nonetheless, I've got a few things. I think, the prophecy may play a big role in things, and it's just going to be maybe like a reinvigorated Angel in season 2. Like now he has this kind of thing to work towards. That's going to be like a big driving force for him. So I think we're going to see a very enthusiastic Angel throughout the season. And I also think, because it's Joss Whedon, the like core trio will be tested against some big threats, but also I think against each other. I feel like they may do a thing where they like all clash and have like different opinions on things, and may have like big fights and stuff. Really get tested in that sense, because Joss likes doing that. I watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I know what the Whedons are like. So yeah, I really think they're going to be put through the ringer next season, and maybe turning against each other almost a bit, because that would make for an interesting story nonetheless. I think they're going to be more crossovers with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Hopefully that's a given, but I don't know for sure. I would love to see some more characters kind of turn up at different points. So yeah, that's another one. And Wolfram and Hart are obviously going to be causing more trouble, I believe, throughout the season. Are they going to be like the big bad again? I don't know. Perhaps, because they'd have like a full season this time, but maybe that'd be a bit too long to just have them, unless they introduce another element. I'm not really sure. So, like, Wolfram and Hart were kind of the big bad of season 1, but I still don't feel like there was like a proper big bad, really. You know, like the quest for redemption was the big bad because it's just so bloody hard to find. So I don't know if Angel's that kind of thing. They have like this big bad for the whole season. So maybe Wolf from the Heart is just going to be like a thorn in their side, kind of like a rival firm in Suits, which is a fantastic show. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's finishing soon though, single tier. All my shows are leaving me. But yeah, I think they're going to be causing a lot more trouble, particularly Lindsay, I think, because he's going to be out for revenge after Angel cutting his hand off. So I think Lindsay could be one to watch next season. I think he's going to be a bit of a bugger, a bit of a problem. And leading into that, obviously, I think Darla is going to play a pretty key role in season 2, given that they spent the whole finale kind of building up to her coming back. So I'm very, very intrigued as to what that's going to be. I don't know exactly what they're going to do. I don't know if she's going to be a villain, or if she'll somehow be on Angel's side, or they'll come to an understanding, or she'll start off as a villain and maybe switch to their side against Wolf from the Heart, or she'll just be a villain for the whole thing. I don't know. I think she'll survive the season. I don't think you're going to bring Darla back in such like a big way and like spend a whole finale just to bring her back, then just to kill her off again. So I think she might be in it for the long haul, honestly. But I think next season in particular, she's going to have a big, big role to play. I don't know exactly what, but I think clearly she's going to be sticking around. I don't think they're going to like hold off on her until like a 2-part season finale or something, and then Angel finds out then that she's back. I think it's going to be a bit earlier in the season than that. He'll find out. But we'll see. I think she will play a key role though. That's kind of my big thing. And then finally, I think there's going to be fewer Monster of the Week kind of filler episodes. Like, it kind of took up a lot of this first season. It was kind of like a Monster of the Week kind of thing. I feel like they've kind of moved away from that almost after the Faith episodes. It kind of felt a lot more connected almost, and we had like a running thing with Wolf from the Heart for the most part. So I think maybe there's going to be a bit less of that, and maybe it's going to be more streamlined and overall story arc focused as opposed to like loads of Monster of the Weeks. I mean, it's not so much a prediction as it is kind of what I want from season 2, but we'll have to wait and see. Either way, I've heard a lot of praise for season 2. I know a lot of people really, really love season 2 from what I've heard, so I'm very excited. I've heard season 2 is very good. I've also heard season 5 is very good. But I'll talk about season 5 in like 2025 whenever I get there. So yeah, those are kind of everything I kind of have in terms of predictions for next season, but I'm very, very excited to get into it. And I will be doing so in the next cycle of reactions. Once I do the next 100 and the next Once Upon a Time, I'll be kicking off with the season 2 premiere of Angel, and then it'll be episode 2 of Angel, and then it'll be episode 1 of Buffy season 5. I think that's the schedule for the next 3. So yeah, we're going to be kicking straight into season 2 when I get back to the Buffyverse. I'm very, very excited. And yeah, that's kind of my thoughts overall on season 1 of Angel. Fantastic first season. Really, really solid stuff. You know, a few kind of dodgy episodes here and there, a few kind of character choices and stuff I wasn't like big on. But I still produced some stunning episodes, some really emotional moments. I absolutely loved what they did with all the main characters. And I fell in love with new characters like Doyle. The idea of like Wolf from the Heart, kind of like a big villain, was really interesting. And a nice parallel to the Initiative in Buffy. The big theme of redemption carrying through the season was really interesting. I loved how we learned a lot more about Angel and his past, and seeing how much he's developed over this season, as well as like Wesley and Cordelia in particular. Those 3 had some really, really great development this season. And yeah, we kind of got some very interesting setup for season 2 at the end with Darla coming back. So very, very intrigued as to what season 2 is going to offer. I'm very, very excited to get into it. I think it's going to be really, really cool. I hope you guys are excited for it. I'm very excited for it. And thank you for sticking through this review. How long is this? I don't know. Definitely not as long as the Buffy one, I don't think. But I think that's fair enough when it's like a debut season like this. I don't think there's as much to talk about because I can't compare it to previous seasons yet. But either way, that is my review of Angel Season 1. Thank you for all your support on my reactions to Angel this season. I was very nervous to start it because I was scared it wasn't going to do as well as Buffy, or people weren't going to like them as well as Buffy, or that I wasn't going to like it as much as Buffy. Luckily, that's not the case, and you guys have been really, really cool and awesome, and thank you so much for all your support on these reactions. I love getting them out for you guys. I always get get very, very excited when I click the publish button when I finish the reaction, and it gives me constant joy to know that you guys are really enjoying them. So thank you so much for all your support on Buffy and Angel this season. Specifically with Angel right now, because obviously it's a kind of technically a brand new show. So thank you for sticking with me, and hopefully I can see a lot of you for season 2 and beyond as we continue going through Angel. I'm very excited to start season 2 because I think it's just going to get better and better, and this was a very, very solid first season. So yeah, good stuff, and I'm pretty sure that's everything I have to say. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time, I guess. Is that it? Am I done?